When betrayal comes, it does not knock. It walks straight through locked doors and sits down at the table where you once set out bread and trust. It speaks softly, smiling with borrowed warmth, while carving new rooms inside your chest, rooms you never knew could ache. People will ask if you're okay, and you will learn how to nod. You will learn how to wear a face that says, "I'm fine," while something inside you counts the cracks and calls them by name. There's a kind of darkness that doesn't shout. It settles, it dusts every surface of your life, and in the morning your spirit tastes grit no amount of water can wash away. On those mornings you'll look into a mirror and find a stranger with your eyes. You'll touch your face like a witness touches a photograph and wonder when the person you were slipped out the back door. I could say time heals, but you are wise enough to know time, by itself, only measures. It counts, yes, but it does not mend. What mends is truth. What mends is presence. What mends is the quiet conviction, as old as the first dawn, that heaven keeps receipts, not the bitter kind we clutch with white knuckles, praying for a refund of pain, but the holy kind, the accurate kind, the kind that say, nothing you suffered went unseen. Nothing you lost fell into a bottomless pit. The God who numbers hairs and hurricanes has numbered your tears, and his archives do not misplace what you entrusted to him. Maybe you once called that superstition. Maybe you still whisper to yourself that the world rewards the loud, the ruthless, the ones who leave footprints on other people's ribs. I thought that too, until I learned to watch the aftermath like a careful listener watches lips. You can tell the shape of justice by the echoes that return. A stone breaks the skin of still water, and we train our eyes on the outward rings. But if you stay long enough, and most never do, you'll see the ripples come home. What went out returns to the point of entry. The lake remembers the address. So does life. So does God. There was a woman once, I will call her Mara, who nodded sympathetically when I spoke about the unspooling of my marriage, then gathered my pain like string and used it to tie a story that wasn't true. She wore my secrets like jewelry at parties, shining with second-hand light. For 6 months I thought truth had lost its map. Then, almost imperceptibly, the tide shifted. Her husband, a quiet man who had learned the hard science of doubt, began looking at her words the way a jeweler looks at glass. Close friends called less. Colleagues tilted their heads mid-sentence. Nothing dramatic, just the feeling that some melody had gone off-key. By winter, her circle had turned into a thin ring of acquaintances who loved her photos but not her presence. She would have called it bad luck. But it wasn't. It was the mirror sending back her reflection with perfect precision. It was the lake remembering. I have seen this pattern enough to trust its pulse. When someone builds a room for their lies in your house, the beams of their own home begin to creak. Not because you cursed them, not because you needed revenge, but because structures made from stolen wood cannot bear honest weather. It's not magic, it's mathematics. Heaven's mathematics. Another time, there was a man I'll name Theo. We built a little company out of late nights and coffee that tasted like burnt hope. When storms came, I reached for buckets. He reached for the lifeboat. He peeled clients off our ledger like labels, pasted them onto his own, and smiled with that innocent look people practice in mirrors. For a season, he rose, profiles, panels, a website studded with adjectives. I kept my hands near the plow and my mouth away from fire. Success elevated him to a high table, and under the linen someone had sprinkled sand. The higher he sat, the more the grit shifted. Deals that were locked unlocked themselves and walked away. A glowing profile became a spotlight that showed seams. Investors who swore allegiance discovered other gods. It took time. Justice likes to gather all the threads before she weaves, but when the cloth finally turned, it turned completely. Theo said the market had changed. Maybe it had, but I think the market just learned his true weight. Scales are funny like that. They may flutter for a while, but eventually they settle. If you've been the broken one, I am not telling you these stories to feed your appetite for someone else's winter. I am telling you so you can let go of the ledger you've been carrying like a second spine. I am telling you so you can sleep. While you rehearse scenes of what they said and what you didn't say and what you should have said, heaven was already arranging a response more precise than any speech you could deliver. Sometimes the collapse arrives from the outside. Contracts crumbling, friends evaporating, reputations finding their true level. Sometimes it begins from within. People who practice harm become custodians of their own corrosion. At first it's subtle, a dulling of the eyes, a calendar full of efforts that don't add up to fruit, a laugh that sounds like a door closing. Then come the night terrors, the fatigue with no name, the small accidents that look like clumsiness but feel like warnings. I don't wish this on anyone. I'm just saying I've watched darkness try to live inside a human frame and discovered it is not good at housekeeping. It leaves dishes in the sink. It forgets to lock the door. It burns what it tries to cook. There was an executive once, Elena, who managed a non-profit with a smile so pristine it looked like charity made flesh. In meetings, she scolded budgets for being selfish and called it stewardship. She told donors that transparency was her love language. Meanwhile, she taught numbers to dance. For years, the city applauded. Then an intern, 22 and too new to the game to know the rules, asked for an older spreadsheet. A request that simple shouldn't be a match, but sometimes paper is tinder. Files appeared, and then patterns, and then a silence so loud even the awards committee could hear it. It didn't end in a day. The truth rarely hurries. It let Elena have a few more interviews, a few more photos, a final bouquet. Then it spoke. In boardrooms and inboxes and a courtroom that smelled like old wood and new mercy. The mask didn't crack, it shattered, and there wasn't a second mask beneath it. There never is, just skin. Just a human face rediscovering the weight of air. If you are listening for a formula, I don't have one. I have rhythms, I have testimonies, I have the sense, like a barometer measuring the pressure of invisible weather, that there is an order beneath what looks like chaos. Scripture names it seed time and harvest. Physics calls it return. Poets call it echo. I call it the kindness that keeps me from playing judge and jailer in a court I am not qualified to run. But what about me, you ask? What do I do while I wait for the lake to remember? You do the hardest, holiest work I know. You live. You put your feet on the floor. You drink water like it's a sacrament. You forgive in layers, not to erase the past but to unclasp your wrists. You stop narrating your story as the one who lost and begin narrating as the one who learned. You bless your own name aloud. You take your heart out of storage and let it stand in the sun. You rebuild, not the old house that burned with your photos still inside, but a new house with better windows. You learn which laughter is medicine and which laughter is a warning. You find the people whose eyes stay kind when you fail. You practice telling the truth in small rooms until you are strong enough to tell it in large ones. You keep your hands clean even when the mud is within reach, because God is with the honest builder, and he knows how to lay a cornerstone that cannot be pried up by clever hands. Doesn't this make me naive? No, it makes you free. Cynicism disguises itself as wisdom, but it is only fear wearing thick glasses. Let the world call you simple for believing in measured justice. You and I will call it peace. Peace is not the absence of storms, it's the presence of someone in the boat. If you listen closely in the dark, you'll hear him breathe. If you lean into that quiet, you will hear him say what he has always said to frightened people in small boats: "Do not be afraid, I am here." And because he is here, you do not need to keep watch over every midnight corner. You can sleep. God does not nap. There is a moment, often months after the initial rupture, when your body realizes it is safe to stop bracing. You will not notice it right away. It will arrive between one exhale and the next. A sparrow will land on a power line and remind you that gravity surrenders to song. You will drink coffee that tastes like forgiveness. You will laugh and realize your laugh has changed keys. You will still remember what was done, but you will not host it. You will not set it at the head of the table. Memory will be a guest who knows when to leave, and then something astonishing will happen. Your enemies will stop being the central characters. They will become background figures in a story that is not, after all, about them. Your healing will make them small. Not petty small, but proportionate small, the size people tend to be when you stand the correct distance from them. You won't need to check their pages. You won't need to listen for their names in a room. You'll have your own names to listen for: joy, wisdom, mercy, work that matters, friends who stay. If along your path you hear news that sounds like justice, that a deal fell through, that a mask broke, that a circle shrank, let your first instinct be a sigh, not a cheer. Not because you are noble beyond human reach, but because cheering wreckage sours the mouth. Let the sigh say, "Thank you for order, Lord, and have mercy on us all." This keeps your heart soft. Soft hearts are rare. They bend in storms but don't snap. They carry fire without burning the house. I'm not suggesting you make yourself available to the ones who bit you. Boundaries are not bitterness. They are wisdom with a doorbell. Lock your doors if you must. Change the locks if you must. Silence is a sentence sometimes. Short, clear, complete. Forgiveness does not mean reopening the old gate and inviting the wolves to try again. It means leaving the courtroom where you were never the judge and letting God be God in a robe that actually fits. You will notice over time that justice has a second assignment beyond balance. It teaches the betrayer, if they are willing to learn, how to hate the tools they once loved. It teaches you how to trust the ground again. It teaches the watching world that character, not charisma, is the currency that spends. Most of all, it teaches you something better than revenge: release. Release is not forgetting. Release is remembering without reenacting. It is finally telling the story with light turned on. There's a path that opens only after you put down the ledger. It leads through ordinary mornings. It turns past a job you once resented and now do as worship. It detours toward people who do not need your resume to love you. On this path, you will discover that your life did not end where you thought it did. It pivoted, it learned a new language, and now refuses to speak in curses. You will hold your own face with gentle hands. You will bless your scars by name. You will stop asking why the knife was sharp and start asking how the wound became a window. And if one day the person who hurt you stumbles across your path, not the digital version of them, but the human, the one with tired eyes and shoulders learning the calculus of consequence, let your heart prepare itself. You do not owe them audience, you do not owe them access, but you owe your own soul a chance at clean air. If a word is needed, let it be simple. If silence is holy, keep it. Either way, step back into the light you have been given. Stay there. The work of your life is forward. I cannot promise timelines. I can only promise tendencies. I can only tell you that in 1,000 small ways and a few thunderous ones, I have watched the world tilt back toward right. I have watched the ledger balance without my hand. I have seen men and women try to thrive on what they took and find their mouths full of dust. I have watched survivors bloom like trees that choose to send roots through old concrete. It takes time. Roots always do. But pavement cannot argue with spring. So here is my benediction for you, the one who learned to sleep with the lights on, the one who kept a toothbrush at Anxiety S house just in case. Lay your ledger down. Heaven has it. Give your shoulders back to your body. Eat good food with people who pronounce your name like a blessing. Stop explaining the history to those who weren't there. Tell the truth when needed, then go outside. Look up. Remember, this sky has watched kings rise and fall, has heard the boasts of men become footnotes, has seen tears sparkle on faces that later learn to laugh again. You will laugh again. Let the closing chapter be written not in ink mixed with bitterness, but in ink mixed with gratitude. Gratitude that you survived. Gratitude that justice does not require your sleeplessness to function. Gratitude that God is with you in rooms where the air still tastes like the past, and in rooms that smell like fresh paint. If you must carry anything out of the old house, let it be the courage you did not know you owned. Let it be the tenderness that did not die. Let it be the wise heart that can spot a counterfeit from across a crowded room and still hopes for everyone as best redemption. And as for those who broke you, may they finally meet the mirror that does not flatter. May they learn what their hands did and unlearn it. May mercy find them at the end of justice. May they become somehow a cautionary tale that turns into a testimony. That is God's business. This is yours. Live, not with an asterisk, not as an apology. Live as one who knows the lake remembers, the scales settle, the truth surfaces, and the dawn, however long it wanders, keeps its promise to arrive. Breathe. Put your feet on the floor. Step into your future like someone who has been expected. You have been. The table is set, the ledger is closed, the story goes on, with you intact, with you wiser, with you whole, with you walking the bright road you were meant for all along. And over every mile of that road, let this be the sentence that steadies your spine: God is with.